Gwen Carr is Eric Gardner's mother, and
Yes, yes.
I have so much respect for her as well as empathy because she was in the court when they announced the verdict, and she had been in support George Floyd's family. She must have a hectic travel schedule because she's always trying to support the mothers who have lost sons or children the way she lost her son, which is a striking indictment in and of itself. That is her life now. That is her lifetime, and she's busy. That's an indictment of our system. But after the verdict, she was being interviewed, and they asked her how she felt, and she said, well, today I feel as if I saw a glimmer of justice. It's that glimmer of justice that gives us hope. But it's also that glimmer of justice in this space that causes me to question the system.
Welcome to Peter and Phil's Courageous Conversations, a podcast addressing race relations and social issues in hopes that you'll be inspired to do the same. Now, let's begin our conversation with your hosts, Dr. Peter Weinstein and Dr. Philip Nelson.
Hi, I'm Dr. Philip Nelson, and I want to welcome you to Peter and Phil's Courageous Conversations, a series of conversations about social justice and racial issues that began after the death of George Floyd. It's been nearly a year and the verdict is in. This conversation is entitled A Glimmer of Justice, Part 2. It's been a year. It's been a treacherous year, but for all those people that were celebrating in the streets, the last 4 days begs the question, why? Columbus begs the question, why? But then Medgar Evers begs the question, why? This is much deeper than George Floyd. This is about our gun-loving society, the inherent legislative codified biases of our system. It's about the training of our police. It's about the strategy of policing.
So, about a year ago, 48 weeks, I picked up the phone and gave you a call just after Memorial Day. I think it was June 6th. And I said, help me understand. In the past year or so, I have learned a tremendous amount about the depth and breadth of the issues that we've just spent the last hour or so talking about. And, if I hoped that over the past year things would change, that hasn't happened. If I hoped that I would have a much better understanding of the issues, that has, without a question, occurred. And I can only hope that those people who've taken the time to listen to these conversations that we've had, and who will hopefully continue to listen to the conversations, will have learned as well and have a better understanding that this is not a superficial issue. This is a very deep and deeply seated issue, and that these types of conversations that Phil and I have had are those types of conversations that can start to help us reach a point where people of color don't have to sit with their kids and have the talk, and that the future will allow for us to more closely live Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. But until then, we're going to continue to have these conversations.
I would hope, I don't want to give the impression that people of color are victims that need to be able to get rid of a conversation in their culture. I would hope that as a result of these conversations, that first, those who have listened and those who are concerned realize we are all victims, regardless of your color. That the angst that we feel regarding the poor, the disprivileged, those who do not have equitable access to opportunities. The angst that we feel when they choose to express themselves through protest, that angst stems from systemic, legislated, codified activities that we are all responsible for, and that to unravel an unjust system requires open discussions. And rather than focus on our differences, we focus on our humanity. But we have got to stop diverting so much of our energy, so much of our capital, so much of our emotions to tribalistic goals. And this conversation isn't for that 25 to 30% who want to just promote a tribe. And it's not for the BIPOC people who want to promote their tribes. This conversation is should be an American conversation that respects the values of the melting pot, that understands that this is a country of immigrants, including the present majority, and that no group has any justification or authority for subjugation of another. That is what we are trying to achieve. That is our higher purpose. But in order to get there, we have to tease our base emotions. We have to tease out our base emotions. And this isn't about soothing my anger. This is about ablating those conditions that caused my anger. I'm responsible for how I react. We're responsible for the conditions our children grow up in.
Happy birthday, Phil.
Thanks, my friend. I'm going to go play some golf now.
Yeah, you'll probably drive the ball another 20 to 30 yards further than you normally do.
I know, but I thank you for allowing me to decompress a little bit. But I do appreciate the opportunity, and I also I want to say that I've also learned a few things over this past year as well. I think it's important to look at things from a different perspective. Even understanding ignorance is important. Well, if I was to summarize the conversation we just had, I think Gwen Carr is Eric Gardner's mother.
Yes,
and
yes.
I have so much respect for her as well as empathy, because, this is when you realize that justice is a man-made concept. Justice is not the solution. Justice does not absolve pain. Justice is a form of revenge or avenging, but justice also includes accountability. And accountability is probably the largest part of aggrievement that occurs when you receive justice. At least you can hold the person accountable for an aggression. But she was in the court when they announced the verdict, and she had been in support George Floyd's family. She must have a hectic travel schedule, because she's always trying to support the mothers who have lost sons or children the way she lost her son, which is a striking indictment in and of itself. That is her life now. That is her lifetime, and she's busy. That's an indictment of our system. But after the verdict, she was being interviewed, and they asked her how she felt, and she said, "Well, today I feel as if I saw a glimmer of justice." It's that glimmer of justice that gives us hope. But it's also that glimmer of justice in this space that causes me to question the system.
Back, if you haven't watched that CNN Mom versus the KKK or whatever that series was that they ran, because there was glimmers of justice 40 years ago too.
Well, I'm tired of glimmers.
Yeah.
I want to see the sun.
Yes, except on the golf course. So yeah, I listen. It's like peeping through a peephole. Let's open it up and let's look through the window.
Thank you for joining us for another courageous conversation. Be sure to follow us and check back next week for more.